Welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I have puppies.
Time to start, puppy.
Time to start.
To another episode.
Of Driving to the Res.
Somebody's real happy. With your favorite hosts, Larry,
PB.
and Inelia. You got me.
I got you.
PBs.
PB's our puppy. In case
Yes,
you can't
yes,
see the video, she's
going crazy. She's so happy.
She's so happy this morning.
Yes. She had all the good stuff for breakfast.
Yes.
She had salmon. Mm-hmm. She had kibbles.
Well, cooked salmon, because you can't give dogs raw salmon, just saying.
You can if it's frozen.
Okay.
But
only
I didn't
if it's
freeze
frozen.
Yeah.
It was fresh salmon, so cook it.
Cook it.
Otherwise, dogs can get very, very sick from some sort of parasite that salmon and dogs are not compatible with.
Right. Not sure.
But
what
humans
it
are
is.
fine.
Yeah.
Humans can eat raw salmon anytime, and they're fine.
As long as you have it with wasabi.
Wasabi, yes. Have it with wasabi. Wasabi will
Kill whatever parasites.
Yes.
That's what I heard. I don't know how true it is.
I haven't verified it, but it sounds really good. And it's a great excuse to eat wasabi. It took me months to get used to the flavor.
Yes.
But now I'm used to it.
Now we have our favorite stop on the way to our road trips. At the Safeway by us, they make actually good sushi, but they don't put too much raw fish in it. It's kind of like vegetables.
Yes.
We have vegetables sushi with our wasabi.
Yeah.
Quite nice.
So today I thought we could talk about a statement. If I read this statement right and you get it, then you totally belong at Walk With Me Now, because today we're going to be talking all about Walk With Me Now and why we enjoy it and what kind of discussions and things, you can find there. And the inspiration for this article and this podcast was to see a person who is usually a total lone wolf, but she's actually about to walk with me now from the very beginning, about 10 years now. But she hangs out on her own, and daily life is among people in the city and whatever's. And then she came to the peninsula, and I'd forgotten, because I'd seen that quite a few times when people come over, that people relax and it's like they're so delighted at the table. We're talking about all these interesting things and mind-expanding things, and there's like relaxed and you can be yourself, and and then people go back to their cities or whatever, but they've had that, different experience. And I've often also, people have mentioned when they first come in to Walk With Me Now, like, oh my God, I'm not a weirdo here. This is totally okay, it's like, it's amazing and whatnot. Yeah.
And even more than that, too. I mean, I'm a part of a lot of conversations on Telegrams and Facebooks and
all sorts of groups
texts
and people.
and chats and groups. Lots of groups.
Lots of groups, yeah.
In person and in online and all just kinds of things, right?
Yes, you do, yeah. You're a very social person.
Well, I will say I'm mildly social.
Okay. And you belong to 100 groups.
I'm just, Looky Lou in 100 groups.
Yeah.
At any rate, there is an unquestionable difference. It's completely and radically different between literally 100% of the other groups that I engage in and Walk With Me Now, which also has a chat group of Talk With Me Now. That group, I'll even include our Star Tribe. Mm-hmm. It's completely different level of engagement, right?
Yeah.
And in a sense that even some of the medical training, one of the trainings I'm taking now is a new biology certification with Dr. Cohen, and he's got a few groups, and inside that groups, it's not the caliber of engagement that we have at Talk With Me Now or Walk With Me Now or Star Tribe. Just a little bit prickly, a little bit righteous and judgmentals and things like that. There's a lot of those things that goes on, and if you say something, often as not, when people say something in there, they'll be challenged or prickled or disagreed with or angered with or fought with or banned or deleted or all those things. It's like it's confrontational. I haven't experienced that myself too much or at all because I don't really engage too much or at all on those comment threads. I actually got banned from there.
You did.
Yeah, right away.
Yeah.
And all I did was I shared that we were having a meditation about how to handle the fear related to our health issues. Something along those lines. You know, it was related to the
fear processing exercise?
Fear processing. It was related to the purpose of the chat, which was community members in the chat share information that they have with each other to help each other with their experiences, right? But I got banned for a troll, for being a, not a troll, but the other kind of thing.
Advertising?
I guess advertising.
You don't remember what you were banned for?
They didn't tell you, just said you're banned. And you couldn't even comment to, hey, what's going on? And there was no email to go like, hey, how can I fix this? And there was even, you couldn't even look at the chat, not alone. You couldn't comment, but you couldn't even look.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
It was like kicked out right away. Yeah, so I guess the point I was trying to make is that the level of engagement at Walk With Me Now, Talk With Me Now, it's so unmistakably different. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's very different. Okay, so I'm going to read a little bit of this. It's a very short newsletter.
Okay.
And then we're going to discuss 3 topics that we chose from Walk With Me Now.
Right.
And yeah, we're going to just expand on them. We can't share what other people wrote on the threads and stuff because that's totally private. But I can certainly share what I wrote. And you can share what you wrote and what we think about it at all. It's our thoughts. So, all right. Here goes. This is the answer I have to a question posted at Walk With Me Now 10 months ago. Even if you're not the group kind type of person, who most of Walk With Me Now are not, there are 10 years of these types of discussions on our forum to read through and get your teeth into. And here's the answers that I gave to a question. And you can imagine the question. 1. Yes, the soul is experiencing the physical universe with a body. Without a body, it cannot do it. That's the first answer. Answer number 2. The souls are bits of their universe, not the physical universe. A difference between the two is the subtleness of solidity of expression. One can say that a soul is indeed a body also, but it's very, very subtle. So subtle, in fact, that it cannot really experience this more solid universe, nor affect it. But with a body, it can do both. Both bodies and souls are made of frequency expressed in different levels of solidity. I would also like to add that at this level of conversation, we're talking about universes and not matrices or of illusion.
Matrices are what?
Of illusion.
Oh.
Matrices of illusion.
Matrices of illusion.
Yes.
Okay.
Are you the type of person who groks this type of conversation? Then become a WalkWithMeNow.com member today. Enough said. Right? If you get excited about the discussion, then you found your tribe. On our podcast, which is, this one, we're going to now discuss 3 of our favorite discussions that we've seen, right? And I hope you enjoy them. And here's the first one. So that is actually my first one. The whole discussion about it,
It's like the jumping off point of that. Don't close it up. I mean, you jumped right into the deep end, honey.
Yes. Well, that's the type of thing that I enjoy about Walk With Me Now. I mean, the type of discussion, questions, and explorations, they're not shallow. They're all like jumping at the deep end. Not all, but I mean, we do talk about the weather, and weather modification and
and how to mitigate the impacts on ourselves.
Yes, and all that. Yes, that's true. Okay. But, it's like, they're not like, what's it called? Talking against people behind their back or egoic stuff and blah, 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 defensive, blah, blah, blahs. It's not that, right? It's interesting.
Right. It's topically interesting. It's not like proving to each other how better you are at
Yeah.
repeating back what you heard from somebody or something, you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not that competitive type
Right.
prickly. You didn't say it exactly right. So right. But there is plenty of inquiry. It's like, this is how I understand what you said. Is this what you meant? Less of, you're totally wrong. This is what she said. You didn't even listen right. You know, none of that, right?
Right. Yeah. And to be fair, to be clear, Walk With Me Now is designed to be a place where individuals can come in and study, discuss, and understand the IBENS method in depth.
Have access to all of pretty much everything.
Everything we do.
Including direct ability to, you know, like talk with your voice to Inelia, I, myself, other people in the group. Have a call, you know, once a month that's scheduled. So even if you're like lone wolfy and you don't really want to like put yourself out there, if you show up to the call, you can like, probably somebody will ask your question because that's how it works. That's
somebody else will ask your question.
Somebody else can ask your question for you. Or you can do a chat and just, you know, text something basically. So the conversation can be had, I suppose, in so many ways there. I mean, it opens it up so that you have those conversations. So this conversation about the soul experiencing the physical universe with a body, and without a body, it can't do it. It's like that's just a little answer to a question that you didn't even hear the question, but you know that, boy, oh boy, I want to know more.
The question's very interesting.
What does that mean? What are the implications of that?
Yeah.
What do we do about that? Where do we go with that?
Yeah.
So how about the souls are a bit of their universe? Does that make you go, what universe are souls from? It's not this universe? What's going on here?
Right.
Not the physical universe. Well,
yes.
What universes are there? Where and how? Well, tell me what, right?
Yes.
Right. Just these little bits. So there's conversations you can have, and you can have them with hundreds of, well, I won't say hundreds of your best friends because lone wolves,
Yes.
we'll just say there's hundreds of opportunities for expanded conversation about some of these topics. So you're not going to be asking a wall.
And also it's like you can participate actively or just read it. We have 10 years worth of material just on the forum part of it.
Right. I looked, there's something like 59,000 posts.
Yeah. And we have a massive library. That's the vault with all the IBENS material for 10 years now. And we have, the Talk With Me Now, which is an active chat app that we use, Telegram. And it just, you get
it's
into
just a continuous
there.
discussion there.
Yeah,
right?
Continuous, yeah.
But it's not like, I mean, like I said, I'm on Telegram with multiple, I have more conversations going than I can keep track of.
Yeah, you have like a ton of
threads.
Threads.
I'm not like posting on all of them, but I'm
different
looking at
groups,
them.
not just Walk With Me Now.
And all of them are all of the rest of them are confrontational to the nth degree. I don't know why they're so confrontational.
Weird. Yeah.
But it's not that way.
Expensive. And, and there's also a lot of subgroups within Walk With Me Now that discuss different things. So there's one on healing, some of them cleansing your liver, some of them about crafts. And people get together to make craft together, knit together, and make power. There's a power objects one. There's we used to have languages as well. People learning languages every week. I don't know how that's going, but it's like there's no attachment, so things come and go as well and evolve into other things.
Right.
So there's a couple more.
Well, the one I was, and it's funny because you asked me give me, top three conversations on Walk With Me Now that I found fascinating and interesting this today. And one of them is your last Woo for Thought, which actually isn't your last Woo for Thought. It's the last Woo for Thought we podcasted about, which was the, what about spaceships?
Oh, yeah.
what's it called? It's Woo for Thought
Spaceships.
episode 4 called
Yes.
Spaceship. So Woo for Thought is another podcast.
Yeah.
This is Talk With Me Now. You're listening to Talk With Me Now.
No, you're not listening to Talk With Me Now,
Welcome to
honey.
another episode of Driving to the Res. That's what it is. I had to do the other part to remember which one we're talking.
Yes. So this is Driving to the Res. We have 3 podcasts. We have Driving to the Res.
Right.
We have Woo for Thought.
Right.
And we have the We Talks.
Right. Now, Driving to the Res is, normally every week, Inelia writes a newsletter. Mm-hmm. Well, a newsletter article, not a newsletter per se. The newsletter article is a topic that's either upfront, interesting, or something that you won't. Well, how would you say? Why do you write what you write?
Well, it just comes into my awareness, my field of awareness. I can sense things differently to other people. And there's things that start impinging in my awareness field. Mm-hmm. So I look and see and I go, oh, that's interesting. So I'll write about that.
Right. So once a week, she'll write an article that goes to be published on your Substack as a Driving to the Res newsletter article.
Yes.
And so every week we'll talk about what it is that's in the newsletter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The short article. It's usually a page, maybe a page and a half, sometimes a quarter of a page.
Right. Enough to get the data out.
Yes.
So, hey, you got 2 seconds. You got what's impinging in your awareness for the week.
Yeah.
Read it. You got a little longer? Here for half hour, 20 minutes, we're going to talk about what it was that you wrote about.
Yeah, that's how Driving to the Res.
So Woo for Thought, which you get at Talk With Me Now or with Walk With Me Now. It's just in there. Woo for Thought is our other podcast. And that one you could just look up Woo for Thought under the podcast thing you're looking at. And there's another whole podcast.
It's a Lectorians podcast. Well, essays and podcast.
The essays called Woo for Thought.
Yes.
And it's similar to the little article newsletter, except for pages long.
8 pages, 9 pages, 10 pages.
Sometimes it's quite long, sometimes a little shorter, 4 to 6. Anyway, enough for you to sink your teeth into that article. It'll give you a good half-hour read in the morning on whatever day it releases.
Wednesdays.
It comes out on Wednesdays. Mm-hmm. So our podcast is obviously discussing it, talking it, sharing it, what happens from it. And so that podcast and that essay has a thread on Walk With Me Now that we engage it. It also has, a Star Tribe. Mm-hmm. We have an after party and we talk about it.
Yeah.
And so this is the conversation. The conversation that I'm talking about. It is some places it's written, some place it's verbal, some place it's in the form of a after party call. Some places it's a Zoom call. Some places it's a chat on our Telegram. But that conversation is had many ways with many people in all those places. It's high frequency. Mm-hmm. That's the best way I could describe it. So the spaceship one, our very first episode of the second hour
of Talk With Me Now.
No.
Driving to the Res. So just to clarify, Talk With Me Now is the Telegram channel for Walk With Me Now.
Okay.
That's the live one where people just,
That's like
if you miss a couple of days, it's like 5,000 texts in there.
Okay. So
but anyways,
our very first episode of Driving to the Res, second hour, is a recording of my regression.
Going up in the spaceship.
Going up into a spaceship.
What you call a spaceship. Yeah.
Well, yeah, what I call a spaceship. And the spaceship Woo for Thought is Inelia's visit to that same spaceship and her interaction with those same aliens. And what did she see? And was it any different than what I saw?
Right.
Or all the other members of our tribe who also visited and were seen there?
Yes.
What they see.
And some people there were not part of our physical tribe. They weren't part of Walk With Me Now or Talk With Me Now.
Never even met them.
We've never physically met them, but they were there. Other people were there.
So that's one of my favorite conversations. It's been an ongoing conversation for at least a year and a half.
Yes.
Maybe 2.
Yeah, it's been very fascinating conversation. Yeah.
So that's my number 1, 2.
Yeah.
How about you? What's your third?
Well, did you want to highlight the favorite bits that you liked about that conversation we had?
Well, it's the... So, to skip around a little bit, one of the things in the conversation of spaceships is something I like to call flying turtles.
Yes.
So flying turtles is a reference to, in the first episode of the second hour, one of the parts of my regression were visiting multiple past lives to get into the, I guess, deeper into the regression. Mm-hmm. Part of the process is exploring some past lives, and that helps set the, I guess, tune your brain for accessing these subconscious memories. Mm. Either way, one of them, I was in... on my horse with two of my friends, standing on the canyon wall with on our horses, looking in the canyon, and like Grand Canyon, like giant, long ones. I don't know if it wasn't Grand Canyon, doesn't seem like. It was a different canyon, like an arroyo or whatever. Mm-hmm. Somewhere big, but not Grand Canyon. Mm-hmm. And we're standing there watching the view, just sort of like taking it in because it's so cool. Mm-hmm. It was like a morning or an evening, kind of like where the sun's doing its... making it really pretty there. It's painted desert type thing. And we saw 3 objects fly by. And we could only describe them as flying turtles because that's what they looked like, turtles that were flying, right?
Yeah.
And that's the language we had to describe things with.
Yeah.
So they were clearly, obviously not turtles flying, giant flying turtles. But that's the language we'd use. And so... now, in the spaceships thing, we call those flying turtle spaceships right now. Mm-hmm. They were flying UFOs, which are UAPs, which are whatever. They keep on
saucers.
changing. Flying saucers, right?
Yeah.
Which, oddly enough, when I went to Alaska, the great big painting on the wall, it's flying clams.
Clams.
It's clams that are flying. Flying clams with people in them. You know how the... clams fly?
Yes.
Clams fly around carried by a giant bird, a raven.
Course. Otherwise, how could it fly?
Otherwise, how could a clam be flying around if not being carried by a invisible giant raven?
Yeah.
Anyway, flying turtle. So the spaceship, we call it a spaceship. That word and that whole concept is a flying turtle concept. And in the spaceships article, you dive into a little bit of what is it actually? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's a conversation we need to have in Walk With Me Now.
Well, we have been having that conversation, right? With Walk With Me Now members.
Indeed.
So that's what's interesting.
That's the kind of things we get on about. If it's not a spaceship, what is it? Yeah. If it's not space, what is it?
Yeah. Why is it called a ship?
Why is it called a ship? Yeah. So it's all about flying turtles.
Mm-hmm. I like that one. Yeah, that was a really good one. Mm-hmm. So our other option that we liked, and to me, this is this conversation started. Let me see, when did it start? 4 years ago, and it is about a weekly exercise that we did. So the weekly exercises: go out to Walk With Me Now and subscribe star. And I'm going to read the actual exercise, and then I'm going to talk about some of the topics that came up in the discussions, right?
Okay.
All right. On our July 2019 call, God, that was 4 years ago, honey.
Yeah, it was.
I mentioned an exercise done with, and I mentioned one of our members there, where we looked at the creation of the perfect city.
Utopian city?
No, the perfect city.
The perfect city.
In this exercise, the person receives a notice from the government, today, not in the future, asking for input and information on what to put in a new city being built, which they want to be a perfect and supportive collective environment. The list is to contain 10 or more items. So 10 things, right, that you are asked the city should contain. Now, let's remember, when it says collective, it's not like a hive or anything like that. Humans like to live in clusters. That's why there's so many cities around the world, so many towns around the world. People like to cluster. So if a new city was being built, like nothing, no agendas or anything, and you were asked, now you're a light being, right? So you were asked 10 things that this city should contain. What would they be? Okay. So, some of the things that, I'll post in the things that this member said. I can't share because that's private, right?
I got one.
Okay.
The water in the city is living, dancing with water style, where it has waterfalls that it goes to crystals, it becomes structured, right? Yeah. So the water in there is that structured water that's just so silky delicious.
Oh, I love that one. Yeah, that's really good. So the discussion was interesting because we have individuals who Walk With Me Now who are really into technology. Mm-hmm. And other individuals who are really against technology.
Right.
And they're both fine with each other. Like, it's not like a battle, Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, that's interesting. This is how you see it. Okay, so, and then, well, if the technology was this way, how would you feel about it, right? So, for example, let's say internet and EMFs. So we all know, probably by now, that Wi-Fi signals and EMF in general are detrimental to our health. So, of course, the city, we don't want to have those, right? Because we don't want anything that is life-destructive and hurtful. However, if we, as light beings, developed Wi-Fi and EMFs that actually supported life, which actually is just turning a knob a little bit.
Just adjusting the frequency to be compatible.
Yes.
If not supportive. It's
supportive.
Like a healing. So you go into a healing room and it would have this frequencies transmitting. Well, make the whole Wi-Fi be that. Why not?
Exactly, right? So if you could do that, then having Wi-Fi and EMFs in the city would be perfectly fine because those Wi-Fis and electromagnetic fields would be supportive of our bodies and all the animals and all the birds and all the plants.
Yeah, that's actually one of the inventions we want to come up with.
Yes.
Right? That's one of those manifestations that's on the list.
Manifestations, but it was already been invented. I mean, we know how to do it. We
don't know how to do it, or we just turn it on. We need to do it.
It's the physical objects, right? But it has.
We want a device to plug in our Wi-Fi now, little cage that we stick it in, and then instead of its signal coming out, it'll come out
supportive.
Rectified.
Yeah, supportive.
Yeah. We want a Wi-Fi
that would
adapter.
Be nice, right? So that's the type of discussions like, oh yeah, well, if that was the case, then of course that Wi-Fi would be fine and everything else, And then I spoke a little bit about my experience. Now, this experience is subjective, so there's no proof that I can give you that is real or true. But to me, it's real and true. And it is that in 2016, I think it was, 2016, I think.
Probably.
Yeah, around 2016, my awareness field swapped from one timeline into this one. So let's say we all have multiple timelines, and that's another discussion in Walk With Me Now that was like gone into great depth about timelines. So some people say timelines don't exist because when the people make that statement, I always ask, well, define a timeline. The quantum physics, blah, blah, blah. Yes. So quantum means very tiny, and quantum physics is about, especially weird stuff. They're going from the micro to the macro and try to explain things that way. When I've seen the reality constructs that we're in, and constructs with an S, plural, I have seen that the way that we can explain timelines does actually exist as a multiple ways of experiencing life from one soul's perspective.
Is it like two people in the same exact spot having the same exact experience, and one of it's terrible and one of it's this is great?
That
like
would
that.
be a good example if you were to be able to tap into or become any person on the planet that's alive today. Then that's very similar feeling to your own person, one soul, like, your larger overall soul, having little experiences of the experience of physicality, right? Lots of different ones. And you can tap into these other ones where you made different choices. And yes, timelines are dictated by choice, your personal choice. So nobody's like putting you in a timeline. And I came in from one of those other timelines, which was a high frequency timeline. It wasn't playing the light dark paradigm. There was no darkness, so there was no like wars and things like that. And the way in which cities looked and felt was very, very different. So it's expressing some of those experiences. Mm-hmm. It's like, again, we had all the technology and everything because that's part of who we are as human beings. We will create technology. And even people who say, well, like there's, what are those people who live without technology?
Amishes or
the
something.
Amish. They say the Amish don't have technology. I says, well, they have wheels, they have carts, they have houses, they have furniture, they have tools. That's all technology. All of it is technology. That they prefer one type of technology over another, that's something different. Okay. Now, if we're talking about the harmful effects of EMFs and all that, yes, that's true, because we're in a light dark paradigm. So I was sharing like some of my experiences in the latter timeline where there is no oppression of the physical body and the soul and the exploration of the physical universe by each person. There's no oppression of that. There's actually, most of the people on the earth are adults, not toddlers like here. And so it's very, very different. Do we have like television, cinema and all that? We do in that other timeline. But the experience of it is extremely different. Very, very different.
It's almost like the difference between all those other Telegram groups that I was part of and not sort of a part of, and Talk With Me Now. It's different.
Yeah.
But in a good way.
Yes, in a good way. And one of the examples at a social level is the gender thing. So, like man, woman, in that timeline is honored and respected and seen as natural for a woman who has a female body to be a woman and a man who has a male body to be a man. And that doesn't take away from people who decide to have a different gender. Now, I have never seen, I don't remember, and it wasn't important what sexual organs they had. But the main radical difference that I've seen between that timeline and this one was that the gender construct was the person's responsibility and not other people's. So if there's a person you met, and for you that person was female and you called her a she, and they were identifying as a he gender, it was their responsibility to change their form of communication. In other words, what they were wearing or the way they held themselves or getting facial hair, whatever it was, so that others would immediately know that was a he. So you couldn't get it wrong because it wasn't your responsibility to construct their gender, it was theirs. And there wasn't like over-sexualized females, like, and it's like, or males even, it's like there was none of that injured root chakra stuff over oppression and pressure and all these things. It's almost like, in the Love, Sex and Relationships class course, I talk about, there's a whole chapter on unit on gender. And if you read that, you'll really get it. But sometimes people read it and they go, woof, it goes over their head because it's not is so different to how we perceive gender here on this timeline. So, for example, I was very attached to and was brought up by this person. And I used to call this person mummy and she, right? And then when we were at her workplace, some other people came over and called her him, sir, and him. So I turned around, I was sitting on her lap and looked around and looked at her face. And I said, oh, are you my daddy then? Like that, it's like, I thought you were my mummy. Are you my daddy? And she looks at me and she says, what do you think? I says, you're my mummy. That's right, she said. Do you see? It was like that. And to this day, I don't know whether this person had a penis or a vagina, or they identified themselves as female or male. I don't know. To this day. Because that was honored. How you see the person was honored. And it wasn't important. And there were like those cases, and it's like there was whether you were a woman, identified as women, that's perfectly fine, normal and natural, and nothing was castigated around that. If you're a man, identified as a man, and the strengths and the weaknesses of each sex and each gender were honored, right? So, if I have a jar and I can't open it and there's a guy sitting next to me in the cafeteria, I'll just hand it over to him, and he'll know immediately to open it, right?
Yeah.
And there's no deal. There's no big deal. It's not a big deal. Like immediately he would know, I need that opened. It wasn't even thought about. It wasn't even something you had a social discussion around. So that was the social aspect of it. And the other really important aspect, and something that, again, we explained and we talked about a lot among Walk With Me Now people, was the fact that people lived thousands of years in that timeline, not 50 or 100. It's like, when I got here, one of the main shocks that I got was that my body was so aged. And I already had children. It's like, what? It's like, I'm not even qualified to have children. I'm not mature enough, I'm only like 50 something. It's like, I can't have children yet. What the hell? You wouldn't even start thinking about having children until you were like 300 years old or something. It's like, no way, you wouldn't.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. There was so much growing to do before you took on that responsibility. My God. So there were some of those things. And yeah, we had those discussions and things in Walk With Me Now, and much, much more other things that we talked about, right? The nature of technologies and how food was grown, and the nature of cities, right? What they looked like. And again, going back to the perfect city, I was explaining and expressed and shared what cities looked like and what they were like,
Mm-hmm.
in the other timeline. And they were radically, radically different. But you did have 1 or 2 million people living in a city that wanted to be there. And they were all supported in every way. And they supported the city in every way. Right? So it was mutual. It was nice. I mostly lived in cities, but I also lived with my own group. And again, it's like the work that you do is one of the things that we explored in Walk With Me Now, was how when the human collective needs a type of skill, many babies will be born with that skill's interest in that skill. And you can see it in this timeline too. Like there's a whole generation that everybody wanted to be an architect.
Yeah, I was going to say that same thing. It's like all of a sudden it's architects. Everyone's an architect.
Yeah. And another whole generation, everybody wants to be an astronaut. And a whole generation, it's like, and then I've met whole groups of people who were very, very passionate about cleaning. And you're like, oh, cleaning like toilets and houses and stuff, yeah. And they're like passionate about it, and like proud about it. And it's like, how does that happen? Like, or lawyering, or whatever. politicking, the politics and stuff. So yeah, there was like radical differences. So like the 10 things that you would see in a city, if you once you go into Walk With Me Now, you can see that discussion and see.
There's lots and lots of cool lists.
Yeah. So what else would you put in your favorite city and your perfect city?
Well, one of the things that I find objectionable about the current ones that I would change immediately is it's like the book we're reading now with a dog that talks. Mm-hmm. Well, I would put dogs into language classes, and dogs would be just a part of regular society, walking around, and they'd be know where they're supposed to go potty.
So they would poop and mess up everything.
No, they would have their potty spots too.
Oh, they would?
They would have toilets for dogs.
Uh-huh.
And dogs would be trained, they know where to go. Because they got to pick a spot. And, you can watch your dog. You watch your dog. When she goes outside in the morning to go potty, she goes to pick the very specific spot.
She does.
And in our city, we'll know what that spot is. And so that spot will be a place that they, go and it cleans itself. So you'll have dogs as part of society.
Yeah. Okay, I like that one. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking forward to see what else we explore in the second hour.
No, me too.
And during these recordings, we don't know if it's going to be Ilia and Adelina doing the second hour or somebody else, because they're about to have a baby. And by the time we get to record the second hour, they may be very busy. So hopefully we'll see Ilia and Adelina, but if not, we'll get a surprise.
Yes. And also, if you're interested in hearing the rest of this conversation, which this has been 40 minutes, which is 10 minutes longer than normal, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Or 20 minutes even. Sometimes we're only 20 minutes in our first hour. We'll probably go an hour and a half or more into some of these topics, and some that we might not even have thought about.
Yeah.
Right? And the second hour, you go to Subscribestar, and you can find, just type in Driving to the Res or type in Inelia Benz, you'll find it. The second hour of this show is on Subscribestar. It's also on Rockfin.
Mm-hmm. And we'll see what other amazing discussions people choose.
Okay. See you there, honey. Love you.
Love you.